Every day it's a new challenge, it's a new experience.
You don't farm if you don't love it.
Feels like your calling in life for me, that I was meant to be on the land.
Traditionally, it's a male-dominated industry. Water is an extremely emotive issue, and without water, there is no life. The last time I saw it rain out here would be probably 2 or 3 years ago. When it rains, it does rain hard. The country flash floods. Over a matter of hours, we'll go from bone dry to acres underwater. Then 24 hours, the water will be gone. We never curse the water out here. I mean, if it rains, that's fantastic.
27-year-old Anika Molesworth and her family bought Rupee Station just outside Broken Hill 15 years ago, at the height of what would become the worst drought ever recorded.
In the early days in this district, the mining industry took off and the land quickly turned to dust. There were giant dust storms that smothered the city, blackouts. Because of that, the regeneration belt was built around the Broken Hill city to keep the soil on the ground and not in people's houses and through the streets.
Among full-time farmers in Australia, only 28% are female.
So for myself or my mum going into a livestock agency or a agricultural service like that, you do pick up that, yeah, don't take you as seriously, or they definitely have a different tone when they're speaking to a male.
But there's a more pressing issue for Anika, one that's a ticking clock over the whole future of their farm.
It's a great feeling, when you start with bare ground, you put a crop in and you can get it to harvest and it ends up on someone's dinner plate.
25-year-old South Australian Daniel Quattrocchi has been working on this small vegetable farm since he was 9 years old. Now, urban sprawl is creeping in.
Our farm's pretty much surrounded now by high-density residential housing, and that's creeped up over the last 10 years now. So we're the last bit of Golden Grove here that's left, all open space, and the developers are asking for it all the time. Farming's a real passion. I mean, we could sell this land tomorrow for millions of dollars and fill it up with houses and go retire, but that's not what we're about. My father passed away in 2002, so that's why it's been me and my mum on the farm since then, and yeah, that's it.
I was on my own at that time, and financially I was in a little bit of difficulties. I wasn't able to keep our property on my own. I talked to Daniel at that time. He was only 9.5, and I said, Daniel, I think we could do something, but I need a business partner to be able to grow, become a farmer.
Me and Mum, had to really push on, and the family depended on it. Had to survive now, make an income. Things had changed. Yeah, it was a big upheaval. Being small, only 10 acres here, it was hard to compete with the big farms. By going smaller and focusing on certified organic produce, there was a market there.
Those chemicals are carcinogenic. Daniel's out there, so I thought, no, this is not a good way to farm. So going organically also provided a better income.
If things didn't work out after my father passed away, the farm didn't work, we wouldn't be here. This would all be sold up. Who knows where I would have ended up, maybe working on someone else's farm.
My parents, they're not farmers. I am very lucky that I haven't grown up on a farm and I'm not clouded by these single ways. I was just a country kid stuck in the city, really.
23-year-old Tim Eyes doesn't have a farm, but studied agriculture. He's a farmerless farmer living in the Yarramalong Valley, an hour north of Sydney.
It's almost obsessive. Like he loves it so much. He'll be awake at night and he'll just be thinking about farming. I guess he might feel a little bit disappointed that he hasn't got his own farm.
Not everyone has the opportunity to buy one of these properties, it's expensive.
The problem is we're just getting priced out of this area. We'd love to stay here, but it's just so expensive.
The amount of rain we get is upsetting in its own way for myself, because I wish I could give it to my friends out west. They said, oh, you get all the rain and you don't even do anything. People say it to me all the time, you're not a real farmer.
Tim would by chance meet an unlikely ally, someone powerful and also not from the land. That would change everything for Tim.
He's an advisor to people that you can't pay to meet.
It's a relatively small place. We've got 120 acres. We run 40 to 50 head of cattle. I've always lived in Sydney. I'm not, haven't been a farmer myself. My background covers Chief Executive of McDonald's. I started Optus. I was Chairman of Telstra, so I've had a bit of a business background.
I've never met someone so down to earth like Bob.
Yeah, how are you, mate? Good, Bob, how are you? Good, good. Good to see you.
I'm very fortunate that they're so accepting of the ideas I've got.
People do work as farm managers on single farms, but Tim is spearheading a new entrepreneurial way of using his farming skills on land that's not his. He now consults to farms around the valley.
My clients are the sort of people that have come from the city and have only ever owned a dog. One of the first questions I'll ask someone if they're thinking about starting a herd is, what colour cow would you like? And that's the thing when you work on your own on a farm. You can get this sort of grudge mentality about people not caring about what you're actually doing. We've got to really engage with people so that they can care and know the truth.
Looking at agriculture in Australia, what people see on TV, there's a lot of risk, a lot of negativity. So it is a scary thing for people and Tim to get into on their own.
They're projecting that Broken Hill will run out of water by August this year. Water is an extremely tricky issue and it's hard to weigh up who is more deserving. Is it the 200-year-old river red gum on the river and the Murray cod in amongst its roots? Is it the farmers who are working tooth and nail to produce food and fibres to feed Australians? Or is it the rural towns, the communities that without water resources, they don't exist?
I think we as a family are convinced that she's obviously the future for here.
I would love to take over the property one day.
It's good to have succession apparent in the enthusiasm of one's kids.
Which should be the sentiment across the country. See, if these young farmers aren't taking the reins of an industry that makes food, fibre and profit in Australia from Australian land, who will?
There is a disconnect between the people on the land and the city, because I think a lot of people maybe don't understand what opportunities do lie from the Blue Mountains beyond.
You can do what you want some days, but I mean there's also a lot of responsibility.
It is a new thing for a young person to be doing.
You can really be yourself in the outback. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.